Hi, my name is Julie Lowe and I'm recording this interview for AHPs Day 2020. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my professional background as an AHP, the career journey that I've been on to the role that I'm in today, and some of the challenges and barriers that I've faced along the way. So my professional background is as a speech and language therapist specialising in adults with learning disabilities. But I currently work at NHS England in a non-clinical role in the social prescribing team. So our programme of work is rolling out social prescribing link workers in primary care, and in my role I support our regional associates who provide learning and support opportunities to those link workers in each region in England, and I also take the lead on some support from the national level. So I run a webinar series for link workers, and I also run an online collaboration platform where link workers can seek support and advice from one another and training resources. And the journey that led me to this point wasn't really planned. So I first discovered speech and language therapy when I was a child and my father had a stroke, and I was so impressed by the range of professionals that worked with him in rehabilitation to get back to what mattered to him and get back to doing what he wanted to do. So I was absolutely thrilled when I was accepted to the University of Sheffield to study speech and language therapy. And the department at Sheffield is absolutely fantastic, but I actually found university really hard and much preferred working and volunteering, which I'm sure did not impress my lecturers very much. I found myself lacking motivation to learn about specific conditions, interventions or assessments, and I was wondering much more about the bigger picture. So, for example, why do some people experience health inequalities, and what is the role of speech and language therapy in reducing those health inequalities and in contributing to public health? And so when I finished university, I was really lacking in confidence and I wasn't sure if speech therapy was the right place for me. So I went to work into a charity, which made me realise how many transferable skills I'd gained from the training that I'd had. And that actually led me to come back to speech and language therapy into my first newly qualified role back in Sheffield. And in that role, I was really fortunate in that I had the freedom to explore some of the bigger picture. So, for example, I was involved in projects in upskilling day service staff in communication, and I was also involved in some projects with care homes. I also started volunteering at that point for AHPs for Public Health, which is an online community of practice, and I was working as a social media helper. And that really opened my eyes to the variety of roles that AHPs can sit in and where my skills could take me in the future. And at the same time, I was working with some young people who were being let down by the health and care system, and I felt really powerless to change that system and make things better for those people, those individuals I was working with. And at that time, I was kind of thinking that I wanted to have more influence at that system level and kind of change things from within. And I discovered the NHS Graduate Management Training Programme, which is a 2-year programme of rotating placements and a leadership qualification. So I applied for the programme as it felt like a good fit for my aspirations in the future, and was really surprised when I was offered a place. So I started that scheme in 2018 and undertook some placements at NHS England, but also a short placement at Public Health England, which is a really valuable experience. And whilst I wasn't using my AHP skills directly in a clinical context, the placements were a great way to see how those skills could be used in different ways, and also gain new skills, so in influencing stakeholders, understanding how things work in the system, and understanding how the policy process works in practice. And following completion of that scheme, I gained my dream job in the social prescribing team at NHS England. And social prescribing, for many reasons, is my dream job, but also it's a public health intervention that is incredibly personalised and targeted to where it's needed most. So, for example, social prescribing can be used to target specific health inequalities, and it can make a very real difference to people's lives. It utilises my existing skills as an AHP, but it also massively stretches me, which is what I'm looking for. And it isn't clinical, but I still get to interact with social prescribing services, social prescribing link workers, and I really feel like I'm making a direct difference to the workforce and the people that we support. I have faced some challenges along the way, but also lots of opportunities. So I think the biggest challenge for me was myself, and convincing myself that I was good enough and had enough skills to step outside clinical practice. Where we define people as their profession, it can be very difficult for them to think that they could do something else. And I had to work really hard to overcome the feeling that I was abandoning a profession that needed me, particularly when my colleagues were asking lots of questions as to why I would ever want to leave speech therapy. And imposter syndrome can be a very real thing, particularly if like me, you felt like your career was set for life. I never anticipated that I wouldn't be a speech therapist at any point after graduating. Most of the opportunities I've been given are as a direct result of networks, and others believing in me when I haven't necessarily believed in myself. So joining AHPs for Public Health and working with some really inspiring AHPs in some really unusual roles that I'd never considered made me feel really curious and much more proactive in exploring alternative options. And later I sought out a mentor who was in a managerial position, and after that another very senior AHP, and those people were really inspiring and really kind of gave me the confidence to go for opportunities that I wouldn't necessarily have gone for before. And they also opened up doors to opportunities that I simply wouldn't have experienced as an AHP not for many years in my career. So, for example, I have presented at conferences, and I've been involved in steering groups, and I've had contact with professional bodies. I was also given a very small part in inducting workforce in the Harrogate Nightingale Hospital during COVID-19, which was a fantastic professional opportunity for me and one that I'll really value. One of the more practical challenges that I faced is in seeking professional development outside of clinical roles. So we all know that continuing professional development budgets are really stretched in the NHS, and unfortunately for most newly qualified therapists or band fives, it's not going to happen that you get funded to do a leadership qualification outside of your clinical practice. But I didn't give up. I looked for alternatives. So I did the free Edward Jenner Leadership's Fundamental course through the NHS Leadership Academy. And I also started to seek out leadership opportunities within my trust. So I presented at AHPs Day on social media for AHPs, and I've also been involved in other ways and other initiatives. And that meant, through that network, when I returned to South Yorkshire and Bassetlaw as part of the NHS Graduate Management Training Programme, I was able to get re-involved in AHP development across the region. So I was involved in the AHP strategy development for the ICS, which was, again, a really rewarding experience and led to many more connections and many more opportunities. So the advice that I would give to any AHPs who are looking to move into a non-clinical or a non-standard role, or even just thinking about alternatives for the future, is to speak to as many people as you can. So find out more about their career path, be curious, ask questions. Most people don't take a linear path throughout their career. They don't go from point A to point B. Most people don't even know what point B is. Point B might not exist yet. There are so many opportunities with digital health that some of the roles that AHPs might be working in the future just simply aren't there. So be professionally curious. Don't be afraid to feel uncomfortable as you take on new challenges and gain new skills, and always just reach out. So we've all been there. We've all been seeking that information that you might think that you need at the moment to take the next step in your career. So send an email, send someone a Twitter message. We've all been there. The other thing I would say is to volunteer. So volunteering in many forms has added so much to my life, and that's volunteering inside work and also outside work. It's a chance for you to try out new settings, try out new clinical environments, work with new people. It's a chance for you to expand your network, and there have been opportunities that I've gained through volunteering in other departments or in other programmes that I would never have gained from kind of sticking in my lane. And also things outside work are a brilliant way to either maintain your skills or up your skills. So most of the volunteering that I do is with sporting organisations, and I've got a really big focus on how accessible sport can positively influence people's mental and physical health. And I've met, so many brilliant people through that volunteering, and it strengthens the community around you. So I would always recommend volunteering as something to explore if you're not sure what your next steps are. And thinking about the future for AHPs, I've got lots of hopes and aspirations for the future. The biggest thing for me right now is that I hope that AHPs are recognised for the incredible impact they've had during COVID-19. You are all absolutely amazing. It is so impressive how people have swung into action on redeployments, working outside their comfort zone. I know that there are a lot of great opportunities right now resulting from COVID-19, so particularly for student AHPs who might be given placement opportunities to work in settings that are non-clinical that they might not have had previously. So there are AHP students on role emerging placements working with universities, working with policy development, and I really hope that will give people an insight into alternative careers without having to make them step out of clinical practice to discover those things, which I think will be a real positive for the future. The second thing is that I hope we continue to see development of public health for AHPs, and that more AHPs understand their unique contribution to reducing health inequalities and promoting health, and taking a prevention-focused approach to their work. There's been some brilliant work done over the last few years around AHPs and public health. We've got an AHP public health strategy now across all 4 nations, which is absolutely fantastic progress. We've got a social prescribing toolkit framework for AHPs. We've got a prevention toolkit for AHPs. All of these tools exist, and I just really hope that we continue moving forward and AHPs are embedding public health in everything that they do. And the last thing is that I really hope that social prescribing continues to grow and that more AHPs get involved in social prescribing, either as social prescribers themselves or as referrers to social prescribing services. There are some absolutely brilliant examples of AHP involvement in social prescribing, so we just need to keep developing those routes for people to connect with their community and getting the message out there that this is, the future really for primary care. And to finish off, happy AHPs Day everybody. You are all absolutely amazing. If you want to find out more about social prescribing, public health for AHPs or alternative AHP careers, please feel free to message me either on Twitter or via email, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Thanks.